The sea itself seemed to hold its breath, as if anticipating the confrontation that was about to unfold on its surface. On a critical resupply mission to the BRP Sierra Madre at Ayungin Shoal, a lone Philippine vessel faced a wall of white and red, the imposing Chinese Coast Guard, their ships larger, more numerous, and determined to block the way at any cost. The Filipino crew stood their ground, guardians of a promise to bring food, water, and hope to Marines stationed on the grounded ship, a rusting but defiant symbol of Philippine sovereignty and resistance in contested waters. This was not a battle of equals, but a test of resolve and courage. Suddenly, the calm shattered, replaced by chaos and noise. Water cannons erupted from the Chinese vessel, a torrent aimed with brutal precision at the smaller Philippine ship, drenching the deck and battering the crew. The force was immense, a physical manifestation of China's might, an act of aggression designed to intimidate, overwhelm, and force a retreat from the contested shoal. Yet the Filipino crew held on, bracing themselves against the relentless spray and refusing to yield. Cameras in hand, they documented the assault, turning evidence into a weapon of truth, determined to show the world what was happening in these disputed waters. The world watched as footage of the attack spread, a superpower bullying its smaller neighbor, the images sparking outrage and concern across continents. The imbalance of power was clear in the size of the ships, the injustice in the arc of the water cannon, and the sheer audacity of the attack. This was not a dispute between equals, but an act of coercion and disregard for international norms, a challenge to the rules that govern the seas. For the Philippines, it was more than a blocked mission. It was a direct challenge to its identity as a sovereign nation, and a test of its people's unity and resolve. The West Philippine Sea is not just a resource. It's part of the national story, a lifeline for millions, and a cornerstone of the country's future and security. The roar of the water cannon was an attempt to silence the Philippine claim, to drown out the voices of those who depend on these waters. But instead of fear, it ignited resolve. The crew, battered but unbroken, found new strength in adversity. The nation's spirit was strengthened, as Filipinos everywhere rallied behind their defenders at sea, united in purpose and pride. The world saw what was at stake, and why the Philippines would not back down, standing firm in the face of overwhelming odds, determined to defend its rights and its future. The struggle in the South China Sea is about more than rocks and reefs. It is a contest that reaches deep into the heart of a nation, shaping its destiny and testing its resolve. It is a fight for the very soul of the Philippines, a battle that defines who they are as a people and what they stand for. These waters, the West Philippine Sea, are woven into the nation's identity: fishing grounds, shipping lanes, and the frontier of sovereignty. Generations have depended on these seas for their livelihood, culture, and sense of belonging. When foreign ships block Filipino fishermen, they take away a way of life, threatening not just income but tradition and hope for the future. This conflict is a test for the global order. Trillions in trade pass through these waters, and if one country can claim them unilaterally, the rules that keep peace are at risk. The world watches, knowing the outcome will echo far beyond these shores. The fight of the Philippines is a fight for every nation that believes in a world governed by laws, not by the whims of the powerful. It is a stand for fairness, justice, and the rights of all peoples. For Filipinos, it's deeply personal, about pride, destiny, and the right to determine their own future. It's about the dreams of children and the sacrifices of ancestors. Intimidation by a larger neighbor fuels both injustice and unity. Each act of aggression only strengthens the resolve of the people to stand together. When a fisherman is driven away or a supply boat harassed, the entire nation feels it. The pain is collective, and so is the determination to resist. This shared experience has forged a new patriotism, defending the nation's rights through every means available, from diplomacy to grassroots action. At risk is the Philippines' economic future, food security, and sovereignty. The stakes are high, touching every Filipino home and community. The struggle is fierce because it's about preserving heritage, securing the future, and upholding dignity. It is a fight to honor the past and protect what matters most. It's not just about a patch of ocean. It's about the spirit of a people and the legacy they wish to leave behind. It's a fight for the right to exist as a free and independent nation, a struggle that will define the Philippines for generations to come. The imbalance of power between the Philippines and China is staggering. China's Navy, Coast Guard, and maritime militia dwarf the Philippines' resources. It's David versus Goliath, a small nation standing up to a giant. China uses gray zone tactics, swarming reefs, water cannons, ramming boats, and blinding crews with lasers, aggressive acts that stop short of war. This strategy exhausts and intimidates, eroding the Philippines' presence without firing a shot. Filipino fishermen now face constant harassment, their livelihoods and dignity under attack. The sea that once provided for them has become a place of fear. Regional stability is threatened. A miscalculation could escalate into wider conflict. The Philippines faced a crossroads: how to fight a giant without being crushed. A conventional response was impossible. The country needed a new strategy, one that could neutralize China's physical advantage. It was time to change the battlefield. The answer? Turn to the halls of justice. The Philippines made a pivotal decision: to match force with reason, shifting its approach from a military standoff to a legal strategy. This marked a significant turning point in the nation's response to the South China Sea dispute. The country's leadership decided to wield international law as their primary weapon, placing their faith in a rules-based global order rather than the uncertainty of armed conflict. The chosen arena for this new battle was the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, a treaty designed to govern maritime rights and responsibilities. Both the Philippines and China had ratified UNCLOS, formally agreeing to abide by its rules and framework for resolving maritime disputes. The Philippines saw a unique opportunity to use China's own legal commitments against it, turning the tables in the international arena. Their legal move was bold: ask an international tribunal not to decide ownership, but to clarify the law and invalidate China's sweeping nine-line claim over the South China Sea. The core argument was clear: China's claim had no basis in international law and directly violated the Philippines' rights to its exclusive economic zone, as defined by UNCLOS. China refused to participate in the proceedings, calling them illegal and exerting intense diplomatic pressure on the Philippines to withdraw its case. Many international observers doubted that a legal ruling would have any real impact without China's cooperation, questioning whether justice could prevail. Yet the Philippines held firm, betting its future and sovereignty on the power of law and the enduring strength of international principles. It was a lonely, courageous stand, one that would test the nation's resolve and inspire others facing similar challenges. At the heart of the conflict is China's nine-line, a vague, expansive claim to nearly 90% of the South China Sea. This claim, dating back to 1947, overlaps with the exclusive economic zones of the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Brunei, creating a web of disputes. China built artificial islands, transforming reefs into military outposts, projecting power deep into Southeast Asia. The international community condemned the militarization, but China dismissed criticism as foreign interference. China's narrative relied on historical entitlement, publishing ancient maps and launching propaganda to justify its claim. But this ignored the modern legal framework of UNCLOS, which China itself ratified. The nine-line was not a legal boundary. It was a political statement, a paper empire China sought to make real. The world watched as China tried to replace universal laws with historical might. The Philippines' arbitration under UNCLOS was a masterstroke of lawfare. The case, filed at The Hague, meticulously challenged China's claims using the language of UNCLOS. The Philippines asked the tribunal to rule on the validity of the nine-line, the definition of islands versus rocks, and China's interference with Filipino fishermen. China rejected the process, refusing to participate and waging a diplomatic campaign to discredit the proceedings. Despite China's boycott, the tribunal asserted jurisdiction and proceeded. For the first time, the nine-line faced rigorous legal scrutiny. A small nation used the very system a global power helped create to hold it accountable. The case became a litmus test for UNCLOS and the rules-based order. The fate of the Constitution for the oceans hung in the balance. On July 12, 2016, the tribunal in The Hague delivered its verdict, a stunning victory for the Philippines. The ruling was clear. China's nine-line and historic rights claims had no basis in international law. Features like Mischief Reef and Ayungin Shoal were within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, making China's activities there illegal. None of the Spratly Islands could generate their own EEZ, shrinking maritime entitlements. The tribunal condemned China's actions, violating sovereign rights, interfering with fishing and oil exploration, and damaging the marine environment. For the Philippines, it was vindication. A small nation had won through law, not force. The ruling became a shield of international law and a source of national pride. For the world, it affirmed the rules-based order and set a legal precedent. China rejected the ruling, but it could not erase it. The verdict stands as a permanent part of international law. Armed with the 2016 legal victory, the Philippines built a global coalition of support. It strengthened its alliance with the United States, securing a crucial security backstop. The Philippines forged closer ties with Japan, Australia, and Canada, receiving patrol vessels, surveillance equipment, and joint training. European powers increased their naval presence and issued strong statements supporting the arbitral award. The Philippines framed its struggle as a global concern for all nations invested in international law. This web of alliances ensured the Philippines was not isolated. A smaller nation, by building a coalition, created a strategic counterweight to a much larger adversary. The struggle for the West Philippine Sea is fought not just by diplomats and soldiers, but by ordinary Filipinos. Fishermen, journalists, and citizen advocates have become frontline defenders, documenting Chinese presence and harassment. Their evidence counters official denials and brings global attention to the conflict. Filipino journalists report from the front lines, putting a human face on the struggle. This grassroots movement has forged national unity and pride. The slogan "Atin ito, this is ours," rallies the nation. It transcends political divisions, uniting Filipinos in a common cause. The Philippines' story shows that power is not limited to warships. Law, alliances, and the will of a united people can outsmart even the strongest opponent. David can outsmart Goliath by changing the rules of the game.